have.
Today on Adversity to Strength, my guest is Adrienne Caldwell, a survivor, an author, and a voice of hope for those who have endured some of life's deepest traumas. Adrienne's story is not one of rainbows and sunshine. It's raw, unfiltered, and real. Growing up in the foster care system, she faced emotional and physical abuse, poverty, homelessness, and unimaginable loss. Yet, against all odds, Adrienne became part of less than 3% of former foster youth who attended college, proving that resilience is not just about surviving, it's about thriving. Her book, Unbroken, is a gripping and courageous account of trauma, recovery, and search for identity in a world that often looks away. Within its pages, Adrienne sheds light on the realities of untreated mental illness, abuse, sexual assault, and foster care, while also reminding us of the strength of the human spirit and the possibility of hope. It's an absolute honor to welcome you onto the podcast, Adrienne. Thank you for taking the time out today.
Thank you very much for having me, Lee. It's a privilege to be here with your audience and you.
Thank you so
So,
much. Um, Yeah, usually I'll say take us back to where your journey began, but there's so much that's gone on for you. It's best if you tell us a little bit and we go from there.
sure. So, my book, Unbroken: Life Outside the Lines, it covers my life from early childhood to early 20s. And during this time, I was either the witness to or the victim of the sexual assault of a young girl, the drowning death of a child, emotional and physical abuse, extreme poverty, mental illness, homelessness, horrifically abusive foster care, bulimia, drug and alcohol addiction, pedophilia, death, suicide, and incest. So
That's a lot. That's a lot for
it's a
absolutely
lot.
anyone. So you've got some amazing strength to have dealt with and get through that there as well. When you said obviously before we started that there's obviously so much to tell there as well. Realistically, one subject is going to take up at least one episode there as well. Um, they're all as pretty much as extreme as you could get there as well. Um, I think maybe like tell us like about the foster care would be a
Okay.
good one because a lot of people like clients of mine have been in like the foster care there as well, and some's had obviously better experience than others there, but a lot of people probably don't know what to expect from foster care there as well, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So yeah, maybe if you feel comfortable with that, you can tell
Sure.
us your story on that.
Absolutely. To give a little context and background information, there are foster parents who are loving and kind and trying to make the world a better place. Unfortunately, when I was 13, I was placed with a woman who did it as a profession. She had no other means of income. So this was her job. And it was quote unquote therapeutic foster care, which means that it's for higher needs children, children who need additional emotional or psychological support. And she worked for a company that contracted with the state of Texas. So there was no direct oversight from the state. Even though my mother relinquished her parental rights when I was 12, the state of Texas was my legal guardian. So she worked for this company, this therapeutic foster care company, and there was very little interaction. The Children's Protective Services caseworker that I had, they're overworked. They have too many cases. It's a nightmare, and burnout, as you mentioned before we started, is so common.
Yeah.
So not all foster parents are bad. Unfortunately for me, the one that I got was one of the worst. And when I say that, the woman who lived next door to us, she worked in the Texas prison system for 30 years. And I have a quote from a police report where she said that those girls, meaning us foster girls, are treated worse than prisoners. That's an actual quote. She said that to the police. Now, this woman, whom I refuse to name, in my book, I refer to her, and forgive me for cursing, but
Go for it.
the bitch from hell. The bitch from hell, Dodd. It's not her real last name, but and in the book I just abbreviate TBFH. That's
Yeah,
what
fair
she
play.
was for me. And what she did, so I got into the foster care system because I had a schizophrenic, physically abusive mother. And to give perspective, my schizophrenic, physically abusive mother, I've never had a nightmare about her, but TBFH, I've had nightmares about her. I wake up crying as recently as a year ago. And
Yeah,
what she subjected us to, it wasn't physical or sexual abuse, it was psychological,
yeah,
emotional abuse. Examples. So we, the foster kids, were not allowed to sit on the furniture. We had to sit on the floor like animals. Whenever it was dinner time, we were sequestered away from them. They ate and we ate separately. And if they were having steak and guacamole, we were having, I hope you guys have this hamburger helper or tuna casserole. I hope that translates.
I get the idea of it. It
Okay.
doesn't sound. It wouldn't be the first on my choice at a restaurant.
Yeah. And she ingrained our inferiority into us so much that we believed it. So there was one full bathroom in the house, and then there was the master bedroom that had a half bath, so a toilet and a sink. When we went in to take a shower, which from the time the door closed to the time the door opened, we had 10 minutes. When we were in that one full bathroom, we were not allowed to use their toilet. So it was very divisive, them, us. And the last foster girl that bathed in the tub had to clean the tub with a bleach powder before anyone from her family would get into the tub or shower. So my issues when I went in, I had a service plan, which is very customary, anxiety, depression, and obsessive compulsive disorder. I
Yeah.
used school education as my outlet, my relief. I knew the rules, I knew how to behave. It's where I excelled, it's where I received praise. But they decided I was obsessive about it and discouraged me from doing well, actively discouraged me, which I think impacted later prospects.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
and we were labor. We were a labor force for her. There would be 3 to 6 girls in the house at a time, foster girls, and she taught us to paint, and I painted her house inside and out, including in the summer at the top of a 15-foot ladder, painting her garage. We did all the chores, stripping the floors and recoating them, just everything, while her 2 daughters sat around and watched us and observed from the couch. They were very complicit in it with their mother. So, yeah, I ended up, I was so desperate to get out of that situation. I moved in with her over Christmas break for 8th grade, and I was there through 10th grade. And I It's a funny story. I was at school. I had taken French since sixth grade. I liked foreign language. I liked Europe, and it interested me. And there was this guy that I had a crush on, and he gave me shit for taking French. He's like, German is so much better. Da, 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 da. So the next semester, I took French and German. And in class one day, the German professor, the German teacher, handed out the Congress Bundestag scholarship application. And I started filling out the application at in the cafeteria on the lunchroom table. And I had already completed several applications for scholarships for other things. So I had kind of perfected my sob story. And I was able to take the adversities and what I had been through. And by this time, I learned to spin it. And so when it came to the interviews for the foreign exchange, I knew what they wanted to hear, that I had relocated. I mean, by the time I graduated high school, I had gone to 13 different schools. So I knew how to acclimate, I knew how to have conversations and meet people, also how to keep the subject off of me and on the other person, get them talking about themselves and not share any of my information. So, um, yeah, it was brutal. And I did receive a congressional scholarship. It's like an ambassadorship type program
Yeah.
that the US has with Germany. And I went to Germany and it was amazing. It was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
The host family that I had, they were amazing. I'm in touch with them to this day. I send her flowers at Christmas, and they respected me. They treated me as an adult. Of course, I turned 16 there, and legally you're an adult at 16 in Germany. So it it was my opportunity to blossom. I lost weight. I cut my hair. I got my belly button pierced. I came into my own, and all of the damage from the bitch from hell, it didn't get erased, but it got pushed down and new experiences were added on top. So it's taken me, okay. So when I got out of foster care officially, when I turned 18, the state was no longer responsible for me. Um, And about 2 years later, I asked for my Children's Protective Services files. And I received this giant box with these two huge stacks of paper. I mean, this box was just full. Everything that had ever been written about me, from TBFH to my initial intake into CPS, everything was there. And I had that box for 20 years before I was able to. And I had periodically, I tried to open it and to go through it, and I couldn't. I would just shut it and put it back under the couch, which is where I kept it. Um, and at 40, I started going through it. I was finally able to address it. And I got so angry at the way that I was treated. I was just raging. Um, Made some very bad decisions, did 159 miles per hour on the freeway. So, not great decision making. And I reached out to every lawyer and to every government entity that I could because I wanted some sort of recourse or repercussions for what she
Definitely.
did to me.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. The statute of limitations was over, and my only option was to start writing. And the few times in my life when I did share stories about me, I would always hear, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I finally started that. And it's taken 4 years, but it's complete now. But I I'm still traumatized
Yeah.
by what I went through with them. And as I said in the very beginning, there are some foster parents who are truly benevolent
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind. Unfortunately, it's not common. It's not the status quo. Um, People become foster parents because they have no other profession or occupation.
Yeah.
So, is it the same in the UK?
Yeah, you hear a lot of horror stories, and for some people, obviously, you've got people out there that do amazing jobs, and I've heard stories where some there's been like a couple that's been foster carers for decades, and they've been amazing, and the amount of people that
Hmm.
they've helped along the way, and then you hear the horror stories. Unfortunately, as a therapist, I tend to get in the therapy session when I've got a client that's got trauma, and they've been in soon. Uh, Nearly always, not always, but nearly always, when they start saying, "Oh, I'm from foster care, I'm fearing the worst," and unfortunately, I tend to be proved right there as well, because it can be an additional income, and I think they might get kind of quite good money with. I wouldn't even call her a foster mother, the person that you were stuck with. Um, did she ever give any justification as to why she was treating you so badly?
So we had separate dishes and silverware. Yeah, and I had to use bleach when I was washing their dishes. And I asked her one time why we had separate silverware. And her answer was that a previous foster girl was throwing the silverware away rather than washing it. And at the time, I was like, okay, seems reasonable enough. I mean, what I was living through, it was a minor, it enforced the inferiority. Subhuman is how we felt, I felt. Um, but I did receive a letter at the end of my year in Germany where she had written me and tried to explain that she did what she did um, for our benefit. I think she was trying to assuage her own guilt.
Yeah, of course. It's
And
not for you. It's never for you.
I crumpled it up and threw it away because and of everything that I've gone through, I've been able to forgive and to move on and to understand everyone with the exception of her because I believe people are generally good and that
Yeah.
they try to make the best decision they can at the time with the information they have. I don't think people go out to try to hurt others. I don't believe that people are intentionally malicious, um, except for her. And I haven't been able to forgive her. And I want to for myself,
Yeah.
it would be a tremendous relief if I could. But there is just so much pain and hurt around the way that we were treated. And as I said, I went through sexual abuse, I went through physical abuse. I mean, the last beating I took from my mother, do you know the wooden dowel rod that you hang your clothes on in your closet?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what she used for my last beating. And I was on the ground and I had my arms up over my head. And in the abuse diagram, you see bruises all down my arm. And it's where she was swinging at my head. If my arms weren't there, they would have been blows to the head. And I've been able to forgive that. My mother was not well. My family failed to intervene. Schizophrenia. She did, you know, I mean, looking back, she did the best she could,
Yeah.
and there's a whole story to that beating, but I just I don't know how to forgive the bitch from hell. Because
What?
what she did was so
Oh yeah,
intentional.
yeah. It was. I mean, as a therapist, it's unresolved issues and trauma in a previous life or whatever. Who cares? Projecting onto you, whatever that might be. You're probably never going to know. What happened to her in the end? Was there any karma that come her way? Because karma tends to come more often than not.
So last I heard, she was no longer licensed to have foster children in her home in our county. But when I did an internet search on her, she lives now in another county. And so different jurisdiction. And I wrote to them and explained everything that I've said here to to hopefully prevent her from having any more foster children ever. And I did hear that a girl in her care committed suicide and died. So it's my understanding that she is no longer a foster parent. And I felt tremendous guilt for not reaching out sooner, not reaching out when I was 20 and saying, look, this woman is abusive. Do not give her children. Do not give her girls. And, at 40, I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? How many girls came after me that she abused?
Yeah.
So,
And the authorities that nobody ever got involved because there would have been other kids that were victims as well.
no, because the company she worked for was not the state of Texas. She worked for a company that contracted with the state of Texas. And my caseworker, I was in a home, which was better than being in a girls' shelter or a girls' home. Um, I wasn't the priority. And when you live with a person like that, what options do you have for telling? My
Yeah,
aunt tried to explain to my caseworker what was going on, and I had a therapist who would come every other week. But if I tell my therapist what's going on, then my therapist immediately contacts TBFH. And I live with this woman, so you're trapped.
yeah,
And I had already been homeless. I had lived in
yeah,
a homeless shelter, so I knew what a girl's home was likely to be, and I chose the devil that I knew,
yeah,
is
yeah.
really what
I
it
get that.
came down to.
What about when you got accepted to go to Germany? How did that go when you told her that you? I'll get what happened. How does that work? Do you just say that I'm leaving, or what happens there? How did you get out of that?
So, a little backstory. When I was 15, I was prescribed even before then. At 13, when I came into foster care, they did a psych eval on me and I was diagnosed with dysthymia. And in the evaluation, which I include at the back of the book, it said, her depression is likely going to deeper and she will most likely need medication. And at 15, I was prescribed medication and I went back to TBFH's, took my razor apart and started cutting because I thought that I was damaged and defective goods. And um, that was the first time that I tried to hurt myself. It wasn't serious. In fact, TBFH actually gave me grief over it because I didn't cut the correct way. I didn't cut along the vein. I cut across the vein.
Yeah, yeah,
She ridiculed me for it. And so I had to convince everyone that I was okay. I had to convince TBFH. I had to convince my therapist. I had to convince the psychiatrist, had to convince the caseworker. And ultimately, and I have the documents to prove it, there was a judge that decided whether or not I could go on that foreign exchange. And that's on top of being an applicant. They received thousands of applications, and only 300 students, American students, are selected each year. So it was a judge who ultimately granted me permission to go to Germany because the state was my guardian. So
What did you say to her when the judge awarded you the, I don't know, freedom to go to Germany?
I was just so glad to be free and a little nervous about what was coming that I I don't know that I said anything really at all. I Yeah, I definitely didn't confront her. Um,
How did you
so,
leave? How did that end? How did you get out of there?
so, Children's Protective Services paid for an airplane ticket for me to go from here to Washington, D.C., where the 300 exchange students spent the weekend doing tours and um, et cetera, et cetera. And then we all took the flight over to Frankfurt, and then we were all separated out. But it was through the Congress Bundestag, which is the German Congress, exchange program. And I actually have the letters that I wrote to CPS while I was in Germany. And I was very concerned about what was going to happen when I came back because I had 3 months and then I was turning 18 and I wanted to go back to the same high school, which did not happen. I ended up going to an aunt and uncle that I resided with periodically over my life. Um, but my one of my proudest moments was when I got off the airplane coming back from Germany. My aunt, the family, my former best friend, her family adopted my brother. They kicked me out. They were all there standing at the gate. You know, this is 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when you could actually be at the gate waiting for a person to,
Yeah.
to get off the plane. And I walked by them and not one of them recognized me. That's how much I had changed. So, um, it was truly a blessing, a godsend. And it's probably the reason that I was able to go on and have a somewhat normal life. Now, I was incredibly manipulative, exploitative,
It's all
not,
survival techniques, though.
yes, exactly. Things that I had learned, coping mechanisms, um, which I say that I was not good for the first half of my life, and I'm trying to make up for it in the second half of my life.
Yeah.
But it was intense. And yeah, I don't know what it will take for me to forgive her. Um,
I've had this conversation with my own therapist about like my mum, who's a complete piece of shit, and I've read it in books and stuff like that. And um, she said to me, "You don't need to forgive her. She don't need to forgive her. What you don't want." And I was, because I'm not the most forgiving of people, and I won't ever forgive her, and I
right.
don't even want to try to. What she told me not to do, and which is what I work on, is to not go around with the anger that I've got towards her, because as they say, anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die, you know. So that's what I work on. But forgive her, not in a million years, no chance. I don't
Okay.
even want to attempt it. But
I
everyone's
like that.
different, and it's whatever works, So,
Right.
all I would say to you is, you don't feel you need to rush to get to that point there, because who knows, it might be never, it could take decades, who knows, because
Right.
what you were put through needlessly, no reason for it or justification, which has affected your life, and you're going to be working on yourself forever just because of that alone, so you know I think
I like that. I like that. When I was first going through the documents, the speeding, I found out where she lived, and I just sat outside her house waiting to see if she would come out. I went and visited the old house,
yeah
and the neighbor. Um, but yeah, I like that. I think I'm gonna adopt it, you know. I don't have to forgive her, but let the anger go.
yeah, deal with the anger, that's it, yeah, that's it, yeah. Yeah, everyone's different on that one, but yeah. I've got to ask, what was it like when you've arrived at this German family and suddenly they're treating you unbelievably well, like a normal person? What was going on? What was your head doing for that?
It, I was just so shocked. I was so accustomed to being treated poorly that I was almost in a daze.
Yeah.
I had my own room, which I had never in my life had. I had a bathroom that, it was downstairs, so they would occasionally use it, but it was my bathroom. Um, and they were good to me, but I never told them everything that I had been through. And I actually sent my book, I've had it translated into German, and I sent it to my host mom. And I got a message back from her, and she said that it took her a few days to be able to cope with it. It gets dark. It gets very dark in some places. And she was just like, we had no idea. And
Why would they? They're never expecting that.
exactly. And
Nobody is.
I had perfected my manipulation, my yeah, I was a chameleon. And a girl down the road, we started jogging together. She and I became very close friends, and I had her correct every mistake that I made. So, proudest moment in Germany was we were at the airport getting ready to come back to Washington, D.C. So leaving Germany, and I was having a conversation with a customs official. And when I handed him my passport, he was shocked. He was like, "You're not German?" And I was like, "No, I'm American." And my German was so flawless and
I can
had
imagine.
no accent
I knew
that
it would be. I just knew it would be. Without a doubt. I would have put money on that your German would have been amazing. That your subconsciously, consciously, your brain would have thrown everything, because that's, to your brain, that's safety. Let's make the
yes,
most of it. So yeah.
you're right. You're right. Um, Yeah, and in fact, in school, there was a math test, and the teachers, so I never spoke in front of a group. I would only speak German one-on-one. I was just too shy. Um, but the math teacher gave the class grief. She was like, the host student got the highest math grade. And so after class, I went up and I was talking to her, and she's like, "Oh my God, you speak German?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So yeah, that was another proud moment. Um, it
Where did you feel that you were at when you've landed? Because it's like your life's changed massively. You've recognized so many things. You can see what a good life looks like there. You're a year older. It looks like you had a big transformation. Yeah, you still got your traumas that you carry with you and you're going to be working on. But I can imagine you landing and you've kind of got like I'm ready to bring it on. I'm ready to face this. Like you had a load of strength that you never had before. That's kind of how I'll picture it.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. That year changed me, and it gave me a reserve of strength that I would draw on in future years. So, no, it was amazing. It changed my life. And I don't know what my life would have looked like without that foreign exchange if I had stayed with TBFH. I mean, and here's a statistic. I'm not sure if it's the same over in the UK, but 20% of the US prison population are former foster kids.
I don't know. Um, as a therapist, it wouldn't surprise me. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it was higher. And you almost want to say, I'm surprised it's only 20%. Because as a
Right,
therapist, I know how important it is for a child to have unconditional endless love from both parents, which is the minimum requirement. Anything less than that is going to affect them. So to go
right.
through the level of abuse, the trauma, the abandonment, because no
Oh,
matter
yeah,
what's gone on with the parents, even if the parent has died or whatever, the child's going to feel they've been abandoned, they're not good enough. It's their fault. There's no self-esteem. There's no self-worth.
right,
And then they go and stay with somebody that then treats them terribly. The child will always think it's their fault. And
right.
that's years of therapy to try and convince that inner child that no, it's not. And it's a long battle there. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's higher. So it's just a shame. But you're in that tiny percent that went to college despite everything.
3%.
3%, 3%, yeah, yeah, 3%,
And
to go on and
it's
achieve what you did.
such a shame because
Yeah,
in most states here, if you're a ward of the state, if the state is your guardian, you can go to any public uh, institution, has to be a public school within the state, and your tuition and fees are waived. You can go to college for free. Now, when I was doing it, I still had to pay, my overhead and books and stuff like that. They don't even have to cover that now. And it's still only 3%, even though it's free. So, I mean, it's clear that the damage is still happening and that the system, the company that TBFH worked for, they no longer do foster care in Texas. But I mean, I would have sued the hell out of them if I had had to, if I could have.
yeah,
I would have done so many things. Um, and the least thing that I could do was make reports to make sure that that woman never had another kid in her home. So, yeah.
in and just finally, in terms of that area, because obviously there's so much to your life, and there's so much that you're doing. What do you see yourself doing? Is there anything you think you might do towards that, like speaking out, that kind of thing, or I don't know, anything you've got in mind for the future, or what you're doing now, apart from writing your book?
So, I have my daughter's friend's father, so we're friends.
Yeah,
He's a juvenile probation officer, and he has spoken with some directors, and they are interested in having me speak. So I am absolutely open to speaking engagements, anything that I can do to bring
yeah,
awareness to the issues. And it's systemic. The caseworkers are overloaded, they're underpaid, the burnout's high.
yeah,
It's ridiculous what they make and the number of kids that they have to try to take care of.
yeah.
So
That's the same here.
until we make it a priority, until we prioritize these children, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
You know, you can have all the free college you want. If you can't function in life because you don't have the skills,
Yeah.
you're not going to take advantage of it.
No, no,
And,
no.
you're going to resort to self-medicating, which I absolutely did. Drugs first, then alcohol. I am now sober, sort of. I only do the drugs that have my name on them. So, but it's it's not a priority. And if there is anything that I can do to help change that, I am willing to do it.
That's great. That's great. And I don't think you'll be short of offers for people wanting you to come and speak out, because there'll be a lot of people sat there listening to you that's been through similar circumstances to you, and to hear somebody else going, it's not just me, make all the difference. Um, your links, along with the link for your book, will be in the description there. Adrienne, it's been amazing talking to you. Such an important subject. Your strength is unbelievable, unbelievable, and that's just one part of your life. So, it's phenomenal. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee. It's really been a privilege and an honor to be here. So
Thank you.
thank
Absolute,
you.
absolute pleasure. Thank you.